This video is sponsored by Skillshare. I'm sure you've experienced this phenomenon before. It was late in the evening and something clicked in your head. You might have had a breakdown or you might have had an epiphany. Either way, you had this realization that you needed to make some sort of a change in your life. Suddenly you knew what you needed to do and you even had the motivation to do it. You realized that you should learn a new tangible skill. You became aware that you needed to start exercising more often. And you even made the decision that you would stop being late to appointments and that you were going to complete projects on time. But since it was late and you had to go to bed, you told yourself you were going to start this new journey tomorrow. However, when you woke up the next morning, you didn't wake up as the new person you felt like you were the night before. You woke up as the same old you, with no motivation to make the changes you planned to make. And in the following days and weeks, no additional exercise was done, there was no progress in your learning, and you still didn't get things done on time. You have again fallen back into your set ways and failed to do what you said you were going to do. But don't worry, you're not alone in this. People set intentions and fail at them all the time. Just look at New Year's resolutionists. And I'm no exception here. I don't manage to do everything I tell myself I'm going to do either. But I have found a way to substantially increase my odds of following through on my desired behavior. Instead of relying on motivation, which comes and goes, I started applying what psychologists call implementation intentions. Back in 2002, the British Journal of Health Psychology published an interesting research paper. In this study, they took 248 participants and randomly assigned them into 3 different groups. The first group was the control group. They were only asked to track how often they exercised over the next 2 weeks. The second group was also told to track their exercise, but in addition they were given a motivational message along with pamphlets on heart health and why exercise is beneficial. That was the motivated group. The third group was given the same motivational message as the second group, but they were also told to do one thing differently. And that was to write down when, where, and how they were going to exercise. The results were quite insightful. In the first group, 38% of participants exercised at least once per week. In the second group, 35% of them exercised. It appears that the provided motivation basically had no effect on their actions. It was as if it washed off as soon as they left the research facility. But in the third group, the group that was asked to be specific about when, where, and how they were going to exercise, 91% of participants managed to work out over the 2-week period. What the third group did differently was they used implementation intentions, also known as if-then plan. Normally, when we have a goal, we think about it this way. I want to achieve X. For example, I want to exercise 3 times per week. The implementation intention is just a small adjustment to this. It transforms into, if situation Y happens, then I will do X. So for example, if it's 5 p.m. on a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, then I'll drive to the gym and work out for 1 hour. The objective stays exactly the same. The goal is still to exercise 3 times per week, but notice how it got a lot more practical. And that's the basic idea behind implementation intentions. It takes just a few minutes to write down, but it increases your chances of doing what you want to do exponentially. And the reason why it's so effective is because you take out all the guesswork in advance. When we're not completely sure how to do something or when to do it, we tend to lean towards the easier option, which is usually simply not to do it. Let's say you come home from an exhausting day at work, but you promised yourself you were going to exercise more. Now you have 2 options, go to the gym or watch some TV shows. Since you didn't specify when you were actually going to go to the gym, you tell yourself you're going to do it tomorrow or some other time when it's more convenient. Therefore, you go for the easier option, which is to watch TV. The gym workout gets skipped yet again, and this sort of rationalization is used to postpone behaviors indefinitely. But when you commit in advance to when, how, and where you're going to do it, then you start leaning towards the behavior you committed to. So if it's 5 p.m. on a Monday, then you're going to the gym. You're not left wondering if you should exercise that day. You've already committed to it. And if it's 7 p.m. on a Tuesday, you're also not wondering if now is a convenient time to go. You've already determined that you don't exercise at that day and time. This way of doing things has been proven to be extremely effective in over 100 different studies. So it's pretty conclusive. If you want to do something, you should use implementation intentions. But what will increase your chances even further is incorporating coping plans. Coping plans are a specific strategy you follow whenever you encounter an obstacle. They act as a plan B. They also follow almost the exact same pattern and they look like this. If obstacle Y occurs, then I will do X to overcome it. This forces you to think about the potential difficulties you'll eventually have to face, and when they do occur, you're ready for them. Let's go back to our exercise example. It's 5 p.m. on a Monday and your implementation intention says you need to go to the gym. However, your boss asked you to work overtime till 6 p.m. today. Your implementation intention has just encountered an obstacle and you can't follow through on it. But because you were smart and you anticipated potential overtime in advance, you already had a plan B ready. Here's the 2 coping plans you came up with for this exact situation. If I have to work till 6 p.m., then I'll go to the gym at 6:30 p.m. But if I have to work past 6:30 p.m., then I'll go to the gym the next day. Again, you're not left wondering if you should go to the gym, if you should skip it altogether, or if you should go some other day. You've already figured it out in advance. So in this case, you know that today you're going to the gym at 6:30. Simple and straightforward. Just to show you how powerful coping plans actually are, let me introduce you to another research paper. Participants of this study were all patients with heart problems. They were just finishing up their rehab, during which they were doing regular physical exercise as part of the treatment. But after the rehab was over, the researchers decided to split the participants into 3 groups. Each group was given different instructions on how to proceed with their exercise. This graph shows us how many minutes per week participants from each group spent cycling during the rehab. Note that these numbers are from before they were divided into 3 groups. So during the rehab, all participants exercised for roughly the same amount. Now this is what their numbers looked like 2 months after they were given their instructions. The first group was the control group and was just tracking their exercise after rehab. The second group was tracking their exercise, but they also used implementation intentions. The third group used implementation intentions, but were also told to think about which obstacles could interfere with their exercise plan. They had to come up with an answer on how to successfully cope and deal with such problems. Basically, they created coping plans. This clearly shows us that mere motivation isn't enough for us to take action. Remember, all participants were motivated and had a compelling reason to exercise. They all wanted to be healthier due to their problems. But ultimately, it was the implementation intentions and coping plans that made them follow through. Sure, motivation can make things easier. But if you always wait for motivation to strike whenever you decide to do something, then you probably won't get as much done. There will be days when you're tired, your back hurts, you're not in the mood, etc. These kind of days are normal and you shouldn't beat yourself up if you can't push through. However, when you don't do something you tell yourself you're going to do, you end up feeling guilty. And this guilt then ruins other parts of your day, such as leisure time. Let's say that you should be studying for an exam, but you're not in the mood, so you go watch a Netflix series instead. What will probably end up happening is you're not going to enjoy watching it as much as you normally would. Instead, your conscience will begin eating you up for not doing what you should be doing. So to avoid beating yourself mentally, simply do the thing you said you were going to do, just in a smaller amount. So for example, your coping plan might be, if I'm not in the mood to study, then I'll only try to learn 1 page. Or, if I'm too tired to study, then I'll only read through the notes. I know that it might sound pointless to even begin something if you're not going to go all in, but there are 2 good reasons for why this is effective. Firstly, we overcome the initial obstacle of starting. It is much harder to begin something than it is to continue doing it. I use this exact tactic to practice my piano when I don't feel like practicing. I simply tell myself I'm going to play 1 piece that I already know, and often it transitions into full-on practice. After all, I'm sitting at the piano and I'm already playing it, so it's easy to continue. Secondly, even if you only go through your notes or only practice for 5 minutes, you've still done more than you otherwise would. Doing a little bit of something is still better than doing nothing. And perhaps more importantly, you've followed your coping plan successfully. There is no guilt, even if you decide to watch a TV series afterwards. In a perfect world, we would all do what we tell ourselves we're going to do. But sadly, that's simply not how it is. However, I hope you now have a better idea on how to actually make it easier for yourself to do the things you want to do. Life will throw obstacles your way, no matter what. But are you going to wait for motivation to strike before you try to overcome them? Or are you going to incorporate implementation intentions along with coping plans? Don't be like most people who throw in the towel just because there is a hurdle on their path. Be a part of the group that actually does what they set out to do in a smart way. Now, if you're looking for something worthwhile to spend your time on, then I highly recommend you check out Skillshare. If you're not familiar, Skillshare is an online learning platform for people looking to get ahead in life. It's kinda like Netflix, but it's specifically designed for learning. So if you're a lifelong learner like me, then Skillshare is the right place for you. It can help you develop a new skill or further improve an existing one. They offer thousands of classes on entrepreneurship, productivity, and creative endeavors for just about anyone on any level. One of the classes I suggest you check out is from Michael Cargin-Apricorn, where he teaches how to plan for and create your very own ideal week. Now, if you don't feel like watching the whole class in one go, you can always use a coping plan to help you get through. So for example, if you're feeling lazy, then just watch the first 2 lessons. You can access Skillshare's constantly growing library with an annual subscription that costs less than $10 per month. And because Skillshare is sponsoring this video, the first 1,000 people who click the link down below will receive 2 months of Skillshare's premium membership for free. So join me and thousands of others on Skillshare today. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope this video helped you become better than yesterday.